And let's chat about Batman, man. I mean, back when Tom King left the title and James Tynion started writing.
Tynion.
Yeah, people started just critiquing to all hell Tom King. And dude, you come over here and you would defend Tom King over and over and over again.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Dude, you did. Every
every
single time, dude, we would talk about this. You'd be like, yeah, man, but I really like Tom King's run way better.
The problem, again, we talked about this at the start of this video, is the way that we both read comics. We like to wait a bit. And I'm hearing every single week people complaining about Tom King's taking too slow, or Tom King's doing like 10 issues of a dream sequence or something like that. Like Tom King's doing all these weird, trippy things. And I'm like sitting there just waiting for my issues to pile up, and I know I'm going to eventually go back and read them all. They read a little better if you wait a bit and read them all at once. I can just safely put that out there. But I do think he didn't get enough credit, I guess, for his run. And it's easier to see for me in retrospect when you look backwards.
Well, let's look back a little bit further than Tom King, right? Because really, in the last decade, we've had really 3 major Batman writers.
Scott Snyder, Tom King, and now James Tynion.
So when Scott Snyder came on the scene, he's blowing people's minds. You're literally doing this with the comic book. You're flipping it upside down. You don't even know what's going on. You don't even know some of the characters he's introducing. You don't care. It's amazing.
Commissioner Gordon is Batman now, and we're going to spend like a year in a flashback. Like, Scott Snyder did some weird things with Batman. Good and bad. But
Mostly
by the
good.
time exactly, I would agree too. By the time he was done, I feel like maybe that DC was feeling comfortable trying something a little different.
Yeah.
A little new.
And I think that's why we got the Tom King run. So I want to chat about the, kind of like putting up against each other a little bit, but then I want to get into James Tynion's take on The Dark Knight, because I love it, man. Right. I love both, but I'm easy to please.
Sure, especially when it comes to Batman.
That's right. So please explain yourself about Tom King, because for me, I enjoyed it. I liked reading about Batman's relationship issues and more stuff about what's kind of under the mask, really.
There were some things that he did well. There were a lot of things that he did not so well. And I think maybe the not so well things got kind of overblown, if you ask me. When you read superhero comics particularly, you have to remember, as I do, that these things are pretty much temporary. That if some writer you love takes over a comic you love, you better enjoy it while it lasts, because eventually that guy's going to move on.
It's a new movie, basically.
Some other writer is going to come on board, and they're going to tell their story. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to move on. And it's just a cycle, and it rotates. So if Tom King's stuff wasn't necessarily your cup of tea, then, hold on, because someone else is gonna take over. With that in mind, I think it makes it a little easier to kind of tolerate things that may or may not be what you were expecting. And Tom King focused a lot on Batman's internal struggles, I guess you could say, a lot of mental things that he was going through. And that's actually kind of a focus of Tom King as a writer. He wrote Heroes in Crisis, which was a comic that's basically just about post-traumatic stress and mental health issues all around. And I think that's pretty important. That's a big issue. And it's important for art to kind of reflect issues like that.
I see this change that we see between both of these authors is now perfect for comparison now that we are beginning the Joker War.
Sure.
The run of James Tynion, his takeover, the introduction of characters like Punchline, the designer, those comics, I didn't even realize it, but it was really a transition. I feel like it was a transition to gear up for the writing that James wants to write. If anything, he was probably held back a little bit, as a lot of writers are with the past and having to deal with stuff, but it's a completely different run. It's a different take on Batman.
I would argue that James Tynion's run is not different at all. And that's part of the reason.
You're going back even further, though. I'm talking about Scott and King. You're saying compared to other Batman stories, this is kind of like back to Batman 101.
This feels to me like classic Batman.
Sure.
Batman versus the Joker. Joker's got a fear toxin bomb that he's going to blow the city up with, and everyone's going to fight Batman, and he's got to save the day.
Yep.
Okay.
A little too safe for you?
It feels extremely safe. That's the one word that overridingly just describes this whole, 10 issues that he's done so far?
Yep.
Safe. Safe is the word that comes to mind. I can't blame him. I mean, I think Tom King had a 100-issue run planned, and then DC just kind of, I think, the numbers, it's Batman. If your Batman comic isn't performing well, then something's not right. And I don't think Tom King is necessarily for everyone. I liked it because it was different and it tried new things. And there's a whole issue where he's spent in the back of a butcher shop, like hung up, while a crazy guy in a pig mask is like stabbing him. And he's sitting there thinking about like, how do I escape? And the whole issue is tense and it's scary. And that was a part of the high points of Tom King's run. And there were a lot of really strange, weird low points that you kind of have to take with. You know, it's all part of the mix. There's highs and there's lows. And to me, this is mostly evens.
Okay.
And I would rather have the ride than something this safe.
Well, I felt excited to read this run. I felt intrigued by the narrative that was being set up for us. However, I was reading Tom King's run faster at times. A lot more issues. I mean, 80 plus issues. But I was like those issues you're describing, I got through those quick, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to the next one and the next one. James Tynion is great. But as you said, it's very basic Batman, kind of going back to his roots a bit. You know, almost every issue he has a new gadget.
I don't hate everything. I don't like. I gotta.
Oh, we'll get into what you like.
There's a lot in here that I did like. And that is one of them. Like, there's a lot of gadgetry that going on in these 10 issues.
The freaking Shadowcaster.
Sure.
We got to talk about the Shadowcaster right now. Okay,
right
so
now.
James Tynion, it's kind of back to basics now. So I recommend if the Tom King run was too much drama.
How spoilery are we getting? Because there was a certain event that happened near the end of the Tom King
I do
run.
not want to give away. Tom King's fine, but I don't want to give away the reveals of Batman because there are a couple like really cool reveals
in
this
in the Tynion stuff. Can we talk about what happened at the end?
Like
the death of Alfred.
Absolutely.
Okay,
dude, of course.
It's been a while, but that is definitely probably the thing I enjoy the most about this stuff now is seeing the ripple effects of that and how he's starting to like hallucinate Alfred's voice in his earpiece,
man.
And how he's slipped up and he's called Lucius Alfred a few times.
It's pretty
Lucius Fox, who is like he's always been like his tech guy.
He's his new Alfred now.
He's now kind of taken over Alfred's job, but he's not as good. He's clearly admitting like I'm not good enough at like balancing all this. And now that Alfred's gone and some other guy is doing it, you're kind of like, oh god, Alfred was cool.
Yeah, Alfred did a lot, man.
Alfred did a lot.
He rooted, dude. But you know what? I like seeing all these gadgets because if you can't be Alfred, you can go the other direction and just
work
equip
with what
him.
you're good at. Yeah.
So, dude, Shadowcasters, this is brilliant. I know you're just like, yeah, it's no big deal.
I love how excited you are about a Shadowcaster.
Dude, I really like it. Okay, so this is like little marbles, right? Like the Batman, like the shadow of the bat.
Right.
That's a thing, dude. Everyone's seen the shadow on the wall, and the villains, when they see it, they're like, oh, shoot, something's bad, something's lurking over there.
Drop the money and just go.
Well, this isn't just Batman trying to scare people, This isn't just like, yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to give you something, a little foreshadowing of like, you're about to get your ass kicked.
Shadowing?
No, it's a little bit more than that because it's all part of his offensive attack. These little marbles are like a projector. So all of these different bat silhouettes that you see on the wall in the comics, at least in this James Tynion run, and from here on out, hopefully they keep reusing this stuff, that's all mechanics. He's purposely casting a shadow on the wall so he can distract his enemies.
That's cool.
He's just going in there and dropping Marvel kind of stuff.
I didn't think about that, but that would upset me if we see all these gadgets kind of introduced and not really followed through with, because there's a lot like that one between that one and the gadget he gets that he can put on the hood of any car and it just transforms into like a Batmobile.
Transforms, dude.
I don't know how, but it's cool.
See, you don't know how, but it's cool. That's how I feel about this. Every time I read the book, I'm like, oh, that's cool.
It's exciting. It's
that's
different.
exciting.
Yeah.
I'm pumped for this, dude.
It's felt like a while. I haven't read a lot of Batman, but it's felt like a while since he's had just fun with like gadgets. That's a thing about Batman that you don't really get a lot of lately, it feels like. So it's cool to see that be the focus. And I really like what they're doing with Lucius. There are some things that I think are done pretty damn cool.
Character designs, man. Character designs are brilliant in this run. You got Punchline being introduced, kind of a new version of Harley Quinn who's a little bit more sadistic, doesn't have as much lightheartedness to her.
Yeah, Punchline's kind of freaky. I was worried when I got up to the Punchline stuff that I would just be too cynical and I wouldn't like her.
Like
I'm actually kind of on board.
Are you really?
I'm not obsessed with Punchline.
I was not expecting that from you.
But there were moments where I'm like, okay, she's kind of freaky. She's a little scary.
Comic fan, what do you think about Punchline? I want to know in the comment section below. And did you read this run?
I read a couple more issues than you did too.
I stopped right before Joker War because I wanted to finish it. I wanted to just have the transitional phase to the start of the Joker War because this little section is kind of like an open shut part of Batman's life that now starts what is going to be a very difficult situation where his family's in danger, he has no money,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of problems. You thought he was dealing with proposal issues? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Didn't even talk about that. The whole financial situation that Bruce Wayne is now in is probably, it finishes out my top 3 things that I love most about this current run. The story is him losing all of his money. Bruce Wayne gets all of his money stolen by the Joker, which I think is genius. And now Bruce Wayne has to just adapt and be a broke Batman, which is like, that's his superpower. He's rich.
And now we have a billionaire Joker.
That's also just equally terrifying in a different way.
I mean,
So it's cool. I gotta say, I don't. If you take over Batman and not the first thing you do, but you wait a few issues and then the first thing you do is a Joker story.
See, I feel like when you were flipping that comic book upside down during Snyder's run, you were just like crapping your pants. What do you want? You want an origami out of the comic book?
Or do you want a Joker story? I love the Joker, you know? I'm glad that there's all this Joker content to choose from. I'm really excited for 3 Jokers coming out, I think next week or something. But you know, give me a Two-Face story. Give me the Court of Owls. Like, introduce something brand new and like freak me out in a whole different way.
It was lacking a little bit.
Give me some Victor Zsasz, you know, like the freaky like puppet guy. Like, there's a whole bunch of Batman stuff that I don't know, and to just lead off with the Joker right away is an interesting choice, I will say.
I love how empowered these characters are. I love the narrative of the designer. You're finding out flashbacks.
The clown kid, the clown hunter kid.
Not
You haven't
yet.
met him yet? Okay, so I'm glad to see that kid. I like his design. I'm excited to see where that goes. I do like the new characters that are introduced. It's starting to feel like there's maybe a little too many too quick, but with the designer I really liked, and we're getting Punchline, and you got Clown Hunter. So we'll see how it all pans out. But it's growing on me.
You know what's not growing on me? And I hate to say it, but Matina's covers on this run.
Yeah,
I am slowly just not becoming a fan
I'm a variant person, and I am very much ready for Matina to get off.
I'm looking at all these covers that we have here. Clearly, one of them's an art journal cover because there's more than 5 colors included in the art. But the rest of them look the same, dude.
They're very samey, and if you take any one of them and look at it, it's cool.
Yeah, it's a cool book.
But when you get a line of them all one by one, and you realize they're
I want to see more variety, man.
yeah,
It's just this is such a big run, and
it's Batman, dude. Let's get some different artists on here. Any other artist? Like, I'm okay with Matina. There's a little bit of controversy there, but I mean, I do like this cover. You know, the one with the Joker and the fire.
The Joker one's dope, dude, man. 95.
This white one with Catwoman on it, I really like. There's some good ones in here, but I think honestly, if it didn't have the numbers on top, it would be very difficult to tell which comic was which.
The twist at the end in this run about a particular character, I'm not going to give it away, made it for me. And I know you disagreed.
I think I know what you're talking about.
You do.
Okay. It's about, no.
Yeah, don't tell them. Comic fam, we want you to read it. I think it's worth you reading because it's such a short run. And if you're looking to get on board, start a Batman run fresh, this is a great place to start.
The best place to start is when a new writer takes over, because that's about as close to a starting point as you can ever get with a comic like Batman, unfortunately.
I want to know from the comic fam, what do you think about this Batman run? I want to know what you thought about Deathstroke. I got mad respect for the dude after reading this short 10 issues.
Yeah, I liked how he was included in here. It was a little subtle. It was good.
Oh, it was really good. Comic fam, we're going to come back to this table to chat more about comics. So hit the subscribe button. You don't want to miss out. And slap that like button too.